Kakadosh Boker Or, Masechet Avodah Zarah Daf Yomi Daf Samudalad Amudalev 64a1. Says the Gemara, we were just speaking about that you're not allowed to come and you're not allowed to do Odrin Imavet Kochavim Bekilaim. What does that mean here? We're talking about Kilez Raim. Remember, we're talking about when there's a mixture of different produce in the ground that becomes Kilaim. Kilaim is also in clothing, which is shatnez. It's also in animals, that you can't put the two animals together, whether it's shor v'chamor yachdav, to plow. And then we're also talking about in planting, that you also cannot do kilaim, which is a mixture of forbidden things. That means each one on their own is permitted, but when you come and you make them together, right, you're not allowed to come and you're not allowed to do that. So you're not allowed in odrim of kilaim, but you're allowed to uproot the kilaim in order to get rid of the tifla, in order to get rid of the hevel. So Savrua, says the Gemara, we're on the top of Samech Dalad Mudalev 64a. Savrua, the Gemara thing says, Amani, who is this? So Bekiva. Tamar, because of Akiva says Mkayem Mikilaim is also loke, meaning the fact that you left it there, you're also going to come and you're going to be loke, meaning not only just for the planting you're going to get lashes, you get lashes if you maintain it, you sustain it, which means that you come and let's say you're going to build a fence around it or you're going to keep it there. The Tanya was learned in a Braita. Hamnakesh, if somebody's going to come and they're going to be minakesh. What exactly is minakesh? He comes and he says, that means he's going to be oker asabim raim, which means he's taking, let's say, the weeds and all the bad things from the ground in order that the rest grows better. Or you're going to cover it in order that it grows better. Loke, right? You're going to get lashes. The Akiva says Afa Mekayem is going to be loke. My time at the Akiva, what's the reason in Akiva? Amarkar, the pasuk says Sadecha lo tizra kilaim. Eli ela zorea. That's only if you've planted it. Mekayem inai. How do you know mekayem? Tomolomar lo kilaim. Which means when it says Sadecha lo tizra kilaim, it means to say that kilu, that it should not be kayam. It should not be fixed. It should not be there. But if it's going to be that you want to uproot it, so for sure that's going to be mutar. You want to get rid of it. So says the Gemara, lo, it's not true. Who is this Braita? Hamani, Sarabananhi. The rabbis argue on Rabbi Akiva, and they hold it's mutar lekayem the kilaim. So therefore he comes and he says, so because of that, the Braita says you're allowed to take money for that kirat kilaim, because really be'emet, there's no isur, meaning leaving it there. So therefore there's no isur. So it says Yira Banan, if it's the rabbis, so what's the reasoning then why okrin? Just leave it there. You're getting paid to leave it there. Why do you have to be okay? Do you have to uproot it? So he says, what are we dealing with? He says, Kegon tekavi bechinam, you're doing it for free. Right? Rabbi Yehuda here, and it's Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar, that he says, to give them matanah chinam is going to be asur. Okay, which means, remember, you're not allowed to give them a present. For no reasons, there's a isur of lo techonem. So therefore, you're not allowed to come and give them a present for no reason, right? So, Rabbi Yehuda nishma Rabbi Kiva, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you could understand Rabbi Kiva. Lavam Rabbi Yehuda, didn't Rabbi Yehuda say asur litel matanah chinam, that you're not allowed to, but lemiuta tifla is permitted, meaning you're not allowed to give them a present, but you're allowed to come and minimize any type of hevel that they have, any nonsense or anything that they have. Rabbi Kiva nami, even though you're going to tell me mikilam is loke, lemiuta tifla should be shapyedami. So says that you're right. Right, which means that we cannot ask anything. For sure, that is proof to the words of Rav Nachman. Okay, fine. Next. Hadur Yatve v'kamen baile. They were sitting down, Rav Nachman, Uli, and Aviv, and Papi, and they had a doubt. Demei avodah kochavim biyad ovdei kochavim. When you have money, which is of the goy, which is in the hands of the goy, okay? What's halacha? Mi tofsim tofeset damea biyad ovdei kochavim or lo? Do you say that the avodah zarah is the money in his hand, and therefore it's a surbana, or not? Samalu Rav Nachman says Rav Nachman mistabra demei ovdei kochavim biyad ovdei kochavim mutarin is permitted. Midan how dato lekamed Rabbi Bavua, but somebody came in front of Rabbi Bavua. When he told them, Zilu zabinu kolma di'it lechu vetuit gairo. Sell everything that you have, and then what? And then come and convert. Now, what did they sell? They first sell their avodah zarah, right? And therefore they're going to convert, and therefore he comes and he says they're allowed to benefit. Now, one second, why should they be allowed? If that money is money of avodah zarah, why are they allowed to benefit? My tama, but he held it's mutar. Meaning, he first said, go sell everything. Now it's money of the avodah zarah in the hand of an avodah zarah, which is permitted, and therefore when they come to be mikayim, now they're allowed to do whatever they want. So says the Gemara, maybe it's different over there. They came to dateli legayure, but he says no. Since he wants to be mitkayer, for sure he was mevatel avodah zarah. That's why it's permitted to have the money to benefit from the money. So says the Gemara, you're right. There's another place now. Yisrael shaya noshe ba'avdei kovim maneh. Imagine right now Yisrael comes and he lends a goy 100 zuz, $100. Umachar avodah kovim vevilo. So he sells avodah kovim and he gives it to him. Or he sells his yain nesech and he gives it to him. Right? Mutar, you're allowed to benefit from it. And you're going to say, why? That money came from Avodah Zarah. Yeah, but he owed you money, nothing to do with it. Avalim Amalo, but if he told him, Hamtenli, wait until I sell it and I'm going to bring it to you, or yain nesech, then it's going to be a surbana. So you see that it all depends. Meaning, if he's just going to do whatever, so I don't care where he's going to get the money from. He could sell whatever he wants and then give it to me. That's fine. But if it's going to be that he's going to tell me I'm selling that, no, that I'm not allowed to. So he comes and he says, Maishra, what's the difference between the Reish and the Seifa? In the Seifa, you want that the Avodah Zarah should be there in order that he could sell it in order to give you the money. So the fact that you want it, so that's why it's a soul. Because you want it. Okay? He says, what? If you actually want it like that, it's going to be a soul? He says, why? He says, Vatram we learned, right? Ger ve'oved kochavim, she'yashu avihen oved kochavim. Right? Aged yachol lomar lo tolat avodah kochavim v'ani ma'ot. Right? Imagine right now you have a ger and avodah kochavim. They get a Yerusha. So the ger, he could come and tell his brother, that's the goy, listen, you know what? You take the avodah zarah, right? And I'm going to take the money. Or you take the yain nesech, and I'm going to take the fruits. Now, once they come and do the shoot of the ger, now it's asur. Because once it came to his reshut, now he's not allowed to do that. But before they actually divided it, he could actually come and say, you know what? You take all the yain nesech, I take the money. You take all the avodah zarah, I take the money. Yeah? Samar Rav Barula says, Rav Barula matnit in our Mishnah is avodah kochavim mitchalek lefi shvareah. We're talking about a avodah kochavim that broke, and it's being divided according to the breakings of how it broke. Okay, so therefore he comes and he says, so therefore there's no difference between whether the ger came and it's shalem or not, because at the end of the day, even the pieces. So tenach avodah kochavim, that's fine by avodah kochavim. Yain nesech, what are you going to say? What, it broke? Like what? She says no. We're talking about cheres, kli cheres, a daini. Cheres is like that they have like the sherry casks nowadays, which basically it's like the kli cheres that it's absorbed inside the taste of the wine. So because of that, that's what he says. That's even whether he doesn't want it, he does want it. It doesn't matter. Even if it breaks, it's still going to be good. He says, but you still want it there. You don't want it that it's going to get stolen or lost. So Papa, Yerushat Ger, Kamata, what you talking about Yerushat Ger? It's different Yerushat Ger. Because the rabbis were Mekel. If you weren't Mekel with a Ger to do with his Yerusha, he might retract to become a Goy again. But he's going to say, I don't understand this Judaism. Well, all of a sudden now it becomes prohibited. What's the problem? He wants an inheritance. So because of that, they were more lenient on Yerushat Ger than anything else. V'tanya Miyachi also learned this in a Braita, but when one of these words, Kishiyarshu, right? When they actually had the Yerusha, but if they right now came and there was nishtatef, meaning that they became partners, it's going to be asur. So Hado Yatvu v'Kabim Bailu, they had another question now. What's the other question? Ger toshav maushi vatel avodah kovim. Can a ger toshav be vatel avodah kovim? Remember, ger toshav is that he's not a Jew, but he just accepted upon himself Sheva Mitzvot Ben Enoch, and he's living amongst us. So that's called the ger toshav. So he says, can he be vatel avodah zarah? The palach mevatel, because only the one that serves avodah zarah could be vatel avodah zarah, but he doesn't serve it, so he can be vatel avodah zarah. Or dilmar maybe called dvar mineh mivatel, that he could be annulling it, because at the end of the day he's still meaning that he's still a goy. V'abar minehu, still the same thing. So Amalu Rav Nachman says, Mistabra de palach mevatel. He says no, whoever serves it can annul it. If he doesn't serve it, he can't annul it. So Meitvei, they're going to ask a question. If right now the Jew finds avodah kavim in the shuk, until it didn't come to his hand, he could come and tell a goy to annul it. But once it comes to his hand, so now it doesn't help him anymore. So he says, right? If right now the goy could annul it whether he's serving it or not serving it, meaning a goy could always annul avodah zarah. So says the Gemara, no, what is Ovda and Ovda? If you're going to tell me it's the same Ovda Kochavim, Hainu Shelo V'Shel Chavro, it's the same thing, that's his and his friends. But Ovda is Oved Kochavim, and what does it mean en Ovda? It's Ger Toshav. So Shema Mina, we learned from here, we just brought a proof that a Ger Toshav could be Mvatel on Ovda Zara. So says the Gemara, no, it's not true. And a Ger Toshav cannot be Mvatel on Ovda Zara. Says why? Leolam L'Chavili, I'm going to tell you it's the Oved Kochavim. Now you told me it's Shelo V'Shel Chavro. Reisha, the Reisha Zev Lepeor is a Bal Peor. Remember, the Bal Avodah Zarah right, which is coming to Vatel is a peor, and the Zezel Markulis. Remember, there was a big difference between the peor and Markulis. Markulis, they used to throw the stones inside of it, and the peor, they used to do the necessities on it. So the Seifa is Zele peor, Zele Markulis, which means that each one is separate. So therefore, what it's teaching us is that somebody that's going to be Oved for the Markulis could be Oved could be Vatel Avodah Zarah peor, or the other way around, because the din is that an Akum could be Vatel even Avodah Zarah himself of something that he doesn't serve. Meaning, even though they're two completely separate Avodah Zarahs, each one could come and Vatel. So Meitvei, so we're going to ask another question now. What is a ger toshav? Kol shekibbelav mifnei shlosha chavrim shelo avodah zarah. That means according to Rabbi Meir, as long as he accepted upon himself in front of three Talmidei Chachamim not to do avodah zarah, that's already a ger toshav. Okay? Chachamim say shekibbelav sheva mitzvot b'minei noach. Acherim omrim elu lo ba'u liklat ger toshav. It's still not a ger toshav. What is a ger toshav? זה גר אוכל נבלות שקיבל עליו לקיים כל מצוות התורה, חוץ מ... Basically, it's like a Jew, right? He's like a Jew. He has to do all the mitzvot except he's allowed to eat non-kosher. That's what, everything. Not only שבע מצוות בני נוח. כל מצוות התורה, חוץ מאיסור נבלות. That is the שיטה ואחרים. What? Ger toshav. Remember, ger is a convert. Yeah. But toshav is somebody that lives with you. So for us, if he's a ger, he's 100% a ger. But he's not a ger. He's a ger toshav. And he only lives with us. But he doesn't mekayem all the mitzvot. So there are three different shitot. What is a ger toshav? Either that he's not going to be over there with Zarah, but he does everything else as a goy. That's Rabbi Meir. Shitat Rabbanan sheva mitzvot b'nei noach. Or shitat acherim, he does all the mitzvot except eating kosher. Okay. So miyachadin etzlo yain. Right, you're allowed to leave by the ger toshav wine. V'mafkidin etzlo, you could even put it as a deposit there. Even if the majority is Israel. Right? He says, he says, right, but you're allowed to be miyached by him the wine, even if the majority of people are going there. Meaning you're allowed to leave in like yichud. Miyachadin here is like yichud. That means you're allowed to leave wine by him for a little bit of time, but you're not allowed to give him as a pikadon, because that's for a long time. Okay, and then he says, but to do with aval miyachadin etzo yain, even if the majority of people are going. Okay, next, Shamno Kieno, meaning the Shemen of a Ger Toshav is like the Yain of a Ger Toshav. So says the Gemara, Shamno Kieno, so obviously, Shemen Mikava Yain Nesech, the Shemen never becomes Nesech. Elai, the wine becomes like the Shemen, which means that just like Shemen is Mutabana, so too the wine is, meaning that since this guy does not do Avodah Zarah, you're allowed to have, there's no Yain Nesech problem. Okay? Velishal Kol Davar, not to do with everything else, he's like a Goy. Ashba Gomer, Yeno, right? Yain Nesech, it's a Surbana. Some people say it's mutar b'shtia, you're allowed even to drink it. So look how many machlokot you have. You're allowed to drink it, you're not allowed to drink it. You're allowed to benefit from it, you're not allowed to benefit from it. Is it like look how, So he says here, ketanim ya, but we did learn, but to everything else, he's like a goy. L'mayil chata. Is it not to do with, like, to be mvatel avodah zarah? No. To give reshut and to be mvatel reshut, which means that can he give reshut and be mvatel reshut in order to transfer inside of a private domain on Shabbat? Tanya, just we learned, Yisrael Mumar mishamer Shabbato bashuk. He could be mishamer Shabbat in the shuk in the public throwaway. Mevatel reshut, so he could come and he could mevatel reshut if he didn't do rovei chatzirot. But if he's not mishamer Shabbato bashuk, so he cannot be mevatel the reshut. Neshamru, he said not to mevatel reshut. He scored. He has to actually rent it out. Meaning like this: if you want to come and you want to carry inside of a building, there's no eruv outside. But you're inside of a building, it's a closed building. But you still need permission from everybody to do that. So if you have another Jew there, that other Jew, if he's not religious, he destroys your reshut that you're not allowed to carry in the building. So what you have to do is you have to come and you rent from the goy, right, the property and everything. But if there's another Jew, this could be a problem. So Kate said, how do you do it? Omerlo, you tell him, my reshut is acquired to you, and the reshut is mevutel lecha. So then he's going to be kaneh, then he's going to acquire it. Then you do not have to be mezakeh, right, to do a kinyan.